Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome to the Phyrexia All Will Be One Early Access event. Thank you very much to Wizards of the Coast for providing me with the Early Access account we'll be playing with today, but without further ado, let's hop into the draft and check out this brand new format. Alright, so for our Pack 1 Pick 1, we have a pretty incredible Bomb Rare. It is quite an expensive card. I don't know how fast the format is going to be yet, but this is a 7-mana 6/6 flyer with Ward 3 and paying 3 life, and every time you cast a non-creature spell, you create X 1/1s with haste, where X is the mana value of that spell. You keep those around forever. They don't sacrifice in the end step or anything, so this is just a tremendously powerful card. The one big issue with it being that it is a 7-mana card that ties us to 2 colors, but I'd like to try it out here and see if the format is going to be slow enough to support it. It's very, very high impact. If this weren't in here, we have a pretty premium uncommon, Charforger, for the black-red signpost uncommon in the format. A 2/3 and a 1/1 for 3 mana is exceptional, and it's got a bunch of other text that makes it pretty great. There's also the Planar Disruption, which is the safest pick in the pack because it only locks us into 1 color, and it's just very efficient removal at common, but I'm pretty happy to just go with Vika and see how it works out. Now there are some new mechanics in the format. The main one that you need to wrap your head around is the Toxic mechanic, which we can see on the card that I might just scoop up here, because we don't see a great mono-colored follow-up to Ovika. We could take Prophetic Prism, or we could take the best uncommon in this pack, in my opinion, the Voidwing Hybrid. This shows off the new Toxic mechanic. That just means whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, they also get poison counters equal to the Toxic value. So a creature with Toxic 1 puts 1 poison counter on your opponent when it hits them, and of course somebody with 10 or more poison counters will lose the game. There's also the goal of just getting 3 poison counters on your opponent, because there's another mechanic called Corrupted, where anything that has Corrupted on it will get more powerful if your opponent has 3 or more poison counters on them. So you don't necessarily have to make it all the way to 10 for some Toxic cards to be worth running in your deck. I'm actually maybe just going to go with Prophetic Prism here, be really safe off of the Ovika, because we can put this in pretty much any deck, but I think Voidwing Hybrid's a pretty solid choice there as well. So yeah, there is the Toxic mechanic, of course. Dang, would have been nice to have the double Voidwing Hybrid here, but we could take a Quicksilver Fisher as a pretty premium common, 5-mana 4/3 flyer, is a nice evasive threat, and it has a very good enter the battlefield effect as well. And then we're still tied to just the 2 colors that Ovika is. Could still take the Voidwing Hybrid, but I like Quicksilver Fisher quite a lot, so I think it's cool to just stick to the first 2 colors, potentially just primarily in blue. But the other mechanics in the format, there's one called For Mirrodin that makes it so whenever an equipment with For Mirrodin enters the battlefield, it creates a 2/2 that it automatically attaches to. So that's really nice for the red-white equipment archetype, letting them up the amount of creatures and equipment in their deck at the same time. So I believe that's pretty much all the mechanics. There's also oil counters, but those are always self-explanatory. Like this comes into play with 3 oil counters. It uses the oil counters to tap and scry. Everything that comes with oil counters will tell you exactly what the oil counters do for that card. So they're just another type of counter that you can proliferate. Proliferate, of course, being a returning mechanic that allows you to put an additional counter on every permanent in player that has a counter on it already. So you can add to the amount of poison on your opponent. You can also add to the amount of oil counters and loyalty counters on your permanents. So this pack's a pretty easy Hex Gold Slash here, going to be a premium red removal spell in the format. It's a 1-mana instant to do 2 damage to target creature, and if the creature has Toxic, you deal 4 damage instead, so sometimes it's even going to trade up into a very big creature, so very happy to take Hex Gold Slash. Our rare here, Slow Bad, does not do a whole lot. There are a good chunk of like artifact creatures and stuff in the format, but not a lot that you really want to be sacrificing all the time, so Slow Bad's kind of just a 3-mana 3/3, a tiny bit of upside. Pack 1 Pick 5, we do get to show off the very sweet lands in the format at common. The Autonomous Furnace here, there's one of these in every color. They enter the battlefield tapped, and you can sacrifice them late in the game to draw a card if you're flooding out. So these are really nice picks. I'd take these over pretty much any replacement level non-land card, like a Kuldotha Cackler. That would be like a fine addition to the deck, but if we just get another decent common in the non-land slot, we'll be happy with it. So if we end up, as we usually do, having like 25 to 30 fine playables at the end of the draft, then we would have just been in a better position by taking the Autonomous Furnace, because this always replaces a mountain and is pretty excellent there. We could also just take Anoint with Affliction here, which I might do. I am actually going to do that. This is a premium removal spell in black. 1 and a black to exile a creature with mana value 3 or less is already just great at instant speed, and if you do manage to get some Toxic and some Proliferate, the Corrupted ability on this is absurd. 2 mana for an instant speed removal spell to exile any target. Unfortunately, no great follow-ups here in blue-red, which is where we really want to be. Got a really nice looking like blue-red spells deck right now for Ovika, splashing in an Anoint with Affliction off of Prophetic Prism, but there's nothing in blue-red or black here. I mean, we could take Bring the Ending, which is fine, but I think the strongest card in this pack is probably just like Flensing Raptor, and I'll just scoop up the strongest card. 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer with Toxic 1 that can give another one of your toxic creatures flying till end of turn to help you get those poison counters on your opponent, help you get to your corrupted abilities. Now we have Experimental Augury looking pretty good here. Great for the blue-red spells deck, because it's going to be Anticipate, 1 and a blue for an instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 in the hand and the rest on the bottom, which is already playable in blue-red spells, but it also proliferates, so it can help us get to Corrupted for our Anoint with Affliction if we get a few cheap toxic creatures or ways to put poison on our opponents. So I'll go Experimental Augury here. Also makes any cards that we get with oil counters a little bit stronger as well. Now we have Oxida Finisher, which is a really cool finisher, pun very much intended. If you get a lot of the cards with 4 Mirrodin, that mechanic where the equipments come with creatures attached, then this could be relatively cheap, like a 5 mana 7/5 trample is pretty busted. That being said, it doesn't look like it's going to be great in this deck right now, so we could just try to splash in an Ambulatory Edifice in the black, which is pretty good. Yeah, 3 mana 3/2, you can pay 2 life to give something -1/-1 when it hits the board. And that is a pick 9 Charforger, so I guess we're just going full Grixis for now, bouncing between these 3 colors, and we'll see where we solidify as the core 2 colors, because yeah, pick 9 Charforger, pretty good reason to dip into Rakdos for sure. So pretty happy with this draft overall so far. We do have that 1 Flensing Raptor in white that looks like it's definitely not getting played. But outside of that, we can pick 2 of these colors to be our core and then splash in the 3rd one and be relatively happy. I don't love Hazardous Blast unless you're massively aggressive. I think the best card in this pack is Sylvok Battle Chair, basically a 6 mana 6/6 with a really big equipment attached for later. But we're really not in green at all yet, but I'll still just take it. Throw it in the side probably. Now we have Glistener Seer, which is a fine 1-drop. It gets to scry 3 times by itself, and if you proliferate, you can do it more. Or Bladegraft Aspirant, which seems really good for the equipment archetype. I think this card's generally stronger, but Glistener Seer is more interesting for potential blue-black proliferate, which is where we might be headed here. Again, scrying 3 adds up to being almost as valuable as just straight drawing card, and a 1 mana 0/3 that draws 1 card is a pretty decent deal. Oh, really late Ruthless Predation as a removal spell there, but I guess I don't know. I'm still going to take Mere Custodian. I think it's pretty much impossible I end up in green. So we'll take the random filler artifact creature that could make the cut if we don't get enough playables. So now we have an Annihilating Glare here for removal. 5 mana sorcery speed removal to destroy a creature or planeswalker. And if we get a Goblin token on board from something like Charforger, we can just sack the Goblin token to play it for only 1. So that's pretty sweet. We did wheel the last Charforger that we saw, and I don't think we'll wheel Annihilating Glare. So it might be nice to take the Glare and wheel the Charforger here. Although this pack does look quite a bit weaker than the last pack that had a Charforger in it. Not a huge fan of most of these commons and uncommons. There is Scheming Aspirants, which we are probably going to be proliferating a lot, but I'm still like full Grixis here, where I think I just prefer Charforger Glare. I think I'm going to go Glare here, and hopefully wheel Charforger, but it might not happen. We'll see. We'll see. Pack 2, pick 2 now. We have another Quicksilver Fisher, great enter the battlefield effect there, but we also have Trawler Drake, which is a very fun way to get a very big creature in the non-creature spell deck, which is Blue-Red's mechanic, Blue-Red's archetype. So 3 mana for a flyer that enters the battlefield with an oil counter on it and gets +1/+1 for each oil counter on it. So 3 mana for a 1/1 flyer. That's pretty bad, but every time you cast a non-creature spell, you put another oil counter on it. And obviously, if you cast a non-creature spell that also proliferates, then you put a counter on it when you cast it, and you get to proliferate another counter onto it. So again, I think Trawler Drake's really fun, a super solid build around for this archetype, so I'm going to take that here and see if we can get this to work pretty well. Maybe we can wheel the Whisper of the Dross for a cheap proliferator. Pack 2, pick 3, we see another Hex Gold Slash. That's pretty easily the pick. Just a very premium common removal spell. Puts another good non-creature spell in our deck. If that weren't in here, we could take Annihilating Glare, but I think Hex Gold Slash is a little better than the Glare, although we are a little tiny bit deeper into black than red. We have 3 red cards and 4 black cards, but I think Glare's generally a bit worse. We'll still go for Hex Gold Slash here. Just instant speed and always being 1 mana is nice. Ooh, Urabrask's Anointer is another very fun build around. Ideally, we need a lot of cards with oil counters on them for this to work. But if you have 2 cards on the board with oil counters on them, 4 mana for a 4/2 that does 2 damage to any target when it hits the board is really good. Like a 4 mana 4/2 that kills your opponent's 2/2 or something like that. Just a good 2-for-1, even if it's just killing a small card. So I'm going to take Urabrask's Anointer here, and we're actually just going to scoop up cards like Glistener Seer a little more highly than the first Glistener Seer, just because we want random creatures with oil counters on them pretty badly now. If the Anointer weren't in the pack, it would be a competition mainly between the Surgical Bay, the Very Nice Land, or like Distorted Curiosity, maybe for a good divination. Alright, now we have the Surgical Bay. We also have Testament Bearer, which looks like it's going to be a great black common in this format. A 4 mana 4/1 that when it dies lets you look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into hand and the rest into graveyard. So it's a very good value play there. And then there's also some decent red cards. Barbed Batterfist, basically a 2 mana 3/1 that comes with an equipment to move around later. And Shrapnel Slinger, 2 mana 2/2 that is main deck artifact removal. But I'm just going to go Surgical Bay here. It's the only card that is 100% going to make the cut. And here's another card that will definitely make the cut for us. It is Blue's common removal spell, so it just taps a creature down forever. But that is usually good enough to deal with anything. And you also get to proliferate when this hits the board, which is very nice with oil counters and poison counters. So currently we have pretty much no way to use Toxic, but we're really trying to dig a lot of oil counter cards out of the draft. We have a Charforger for oil counters, a Trawler Drake for oil counters, and a Glistener Seer for another oil counter card. Well, I am bouncing between 3 colors, so I do have to take the good mana fixing like Prophetic Prism really highly, where I am going to take it over some other cards that would be great additions, primarily Mesmerizing Dose, but really going to make sure I've got great mana fixing here. Blightbelly would also be fine for that proliferate when it dies, and Blister Zoe is a pretty fun top end for a deck like this when you try to proliferate all those oil counters, so it draws you a million cards when it dies, but we're just going to make sure we've got all the mana fixing we need to be able to play a full Grixis deck here. 5-drop creature versus a very nice proliferating instant for the non-creature spell deck. I'm going to go for the Experimental Augury with cards like Trawler Drake in the deck when I really have tons of great instants. And we did wheel the Charforger. Very, very happy with that. That makes me just tremendously happy with how I chose to draft out of that pack, grabbing the Glare first. Now we have another Quicksilver Fisher. High mana cost creature, but a good one. We do have double Prophetic Prism, so it shouldn't be that hard to splash in Malcator. And this is 3 mana for a 1/1 and a 3/3. It's pretty good, so I could see an argument for splashing Malcator, but I'm still just going to play it a little safe there. Take the Quicksilver Fisher instead. Now a Chimney Rabble, which gives us an expendable goblin to sacrifice to our Annihilating Glare, or lets our board get a little wider for Charforger to trigger more times as more creatures die. So that seems like a fine addition. We're going to have a lot we can do when we get to deck building here, because we pretty much already have a deck at 21 cards. We only need a couple more to fill out the deck, and I don't think we're splashing any of this in, so throw something random into the sideboard there. Now we can take a Shrapnel Slinger nice and late. 2 mana, 2/2, main deckable, artifact removal, don't mind if I do. And another Chimney Rabble, another card I am not unhappy to see that late. And now for pack 3, pick 1, we get to just take another Trawler Drake here for this deck that has tons of non-creatures and a decent bit of Proliferate. It's another card that has oil counters as well to make our Urabrask's Anointer better. Pretty happy to take Trawler Drake. Bilious Skull Dweller would be a solid addition as well, giving us a way to potentially get some poison counters on our opponent. Even just getting one on them will allow us to start proliferating to get to the 3 poison counters that we want to make our Anoint with Affliction better. But again, Anoint with Affliction, perfectly playable even if we can never corrupt our opponent, so I'm not incredibly worried about it, where I will still take Trawler Drake over the Skull Dweller. And there's pretty much no way at this point we're going to get enough Toxic or Poison to be trying to put 10 poison counters on our opponent. But we could still value those Toxic cards a little bit, trying to get to Corrupted, trying to get to 3 poison counters on our opponent. Autonomous Furnace seems fine. Siphoner if I really want to get Toxicking my opponent. But I think I'm just going to go Autonomous Furnace here. These are pretty replacement level creatures. We're very low on creatures, but that's kind of what we want. Oh, actually, no, we're not. We have 14 creatures? Well, I'm low on cheap creatures at least. If I order them out, I have a lot of good 3 mana and up creatures. So I still need good 2-drop creatures primarily. Yeah, I have 1 1-mana creature, 1 2-mana creature. So the main thing we're looking to fill up on when we have the chance is just decent 2-drops primarily. Well, even though there is a decent 2-drop Malcator's Watcher here, a 2 mana 1/1 Flying Vigilance that draws us a card when it dies. So it just replaces itself nice and quick. There's also a bonkers build around for our exact archetype. Serum Core Chimera, 2 mana and a blue and a red, so 4 mana total. For a 2/4 flyer, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on it, and you can remove 3 to draw a card. That's not all. You could also then choose to discard a non-land card, and if you do, deal 3 damage to target creature, Planeswalker. So just an incredible card for the blue-red non-creature spell / proliferate archetype, and that's what we're doing here. Alright, here's a great 2 mana creature for our deck, which is what we need. Blight Belly Rat. 2 mana for a 2/2 with Toxic, 1 that proliferates when it dies. So this is a way to both potentially get a poison counter on our opponent, to corrupt them after we put some proliferate going, and another way to proliferate, because it'll proliferate when it dies. So good addition there. Now we have Infectious Inquiry looks decent for us, but Ichor Synthesizer does as well because we need more cheap creatures. I think we need cheap creatures enough to take Synthesizer over Infectious Inquiry, but I'm pretty interested in this, so a little sad to pass it up. But this would be 3 mana, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, so a good little divination there. That also puts a poison counter on our opponent to again get us to where we can start proliferating to guarantee our corrupted cards get better. That being said, Ichor Synthesizer, another card that puts oil counters on itself, so it makes our Urabrask's Anointer better. And as I said before, we are looking for more 2 mana creatures, so we'll get that in the deck. And speaking of 2 mana creatures that we're looking for, we can take a Scheming Aspirant here. That's all we really need, just more decent 2-drop creatures, so here's a decent one. Drain our opponent some life when we proliferate at times. Seems fine. Prologue to Phyrexia would also be fine. And then there's some fine high mana cost creatures, but I don't think I need more of those. But they are theoretically options. Mainly Aspirant versus that instant there. Okay, now we have Annihilating Glare versus Atmosphere Surgeon. Atmosphere Surgeon gives us another 2 mana creature as well as another oil counter involved card. So I'm going to take it because, again, it fills 2 roles we need, helping Anointer and helping our curve. But Annihilating Glare would be another great addition to the deck, so I don't think it's super wrong to just take Glare there. Ascent is theoretically a way to get 1 poison counter on our opponent in their early game to proliferate with later. There's also Logbook here, which could be good late game. Very, very slow card, though, so I'm a little scared of running a card that slow this early in the format. I'm just going to take Dross Pits. It's the only card that 100% makes the cut. Gonna do it every time. Actually, that Spell Bomb, I completely forgot about that Spell Bomb, but that's a good card too. Alright, Quicksilver Fisher is enough better than the 2 mana creature. I'm just gonna take another 5 mana creature here. 5 mana 4/3 flyer, big enough to end some games, and it has a good under the battlefield effect. Now we've got another Chimney Rabble, a Thrill of Possibility, and a Necrogen Communion. I'll just take the instant speed. card draw spell. Now we'll take a Mere Custodian. And I'm just not going to main deck Duress at all, so I just don't play this card in Premier Draft in pretty much any format. It's a tiny, tiny bit better in this format because 4 Mirrodin is mechanic, so there are some creatures in your opponent's hand that this can make them discard if they have any of the Mirrodin equipment, but it's still not main deckable in my opinion. Very much a sideboard card. Just way too easy to miss in Limited. Alright, yeah, we're not going to be aggressive enough to play Hazardous Blast, so everything in the sideboard is definitely not going to be in the deck. We're not splashing in any of these green or white cards. So let's sort everything out here, and then we need to cut 9 cards to have a deck here. Gonna be a fun one. I think we want to be blue-black splashing red, because the cards that we really need to be able to cast early game are our creatures, so that we can curve out, play attackers and blockers as the game progresses. So we cut primarily red cards here. Just cut all the red cards that aren't good. Aren't good late game. So Shrapnel Slinger, because it's just a 2-drop creature, we really want to play that early game. Thrill of Possibility is just not great. Hexgold Slash, we can draw it later and it's still fine. I think I'm keeping that in. I'm not in love with Chimney Rabble. How many creatures do we have? 22? Not in love with the Chimney Rabbles or the Mere Custodians. So if we cut all of these, we only need to cut 2 more cards to be a 17-land deck. I still have 16 creatures, which is quite a bit for the deck that's focused around playing a lot of non-creatures for cards like Ovika and Serum Core Chimera. So I think we can cut some more creatures here. The idea behind Ambulatory Edifice is that you get to attack in with something into one of their bigger creatures and then kill it post-combat by giving it -1/-1. But it also does work against like green-white toxic decks because they can make Phyrexian mites that you can kill. I think this is good enough. I don't want to cut it, because also if my opponent's playing 2-mana 3/1s, the card's going to be devastatingly good. But I don't think we're really good at like attacking in and then playing this post-combat. That's the part I don't love about it. How much Proliferate did we end up with? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Proliferate cards? Actually, Aspirant might just not be good then. If we have 4 cards that proliferate total. Don't think this is triggering very consistently at all. It's just going to be a 2-mana 1/3 with basically no text. Low on 2-drop creatures that way, but then they're all pretty great ones. Oil counter cards or a Proliferator. How much oil do we have? Ooh, good amount. I think Anointer is actually going to work out here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards that just naturally gets oil counters over time. Yeah, should be able to throw some Anointers on the board with 2 oil countered permanents out, which is right where you want to be. If we had more oil counters, this card would start to get busted, but definitely a solid playable, I think, at 8 cards that get oil counters. Okay, so I'm going to drop the Scheming Aspirant. And then we still have to cut 1 more card. I'm definitely not cutting a land. We have a 7-drop in this deck. I don't think I'm adding an 18th land, but I'm not going to cut one. I'm not cutting any of the non-land cards. Any creatures in here? I guess I have 3 Quicksilver Fishers. They don't fit the oil counter theme or the non-creature spell theme. They're just good creatures in general. Yeah, I guess if I'm cutting anything here, I have to cut one of the cards that's just like, that doesn't fit the oil or non-creature spell theme, so it's one of these. And I don't want to go that low on creatures here. Especially, well, I don't really want to go that low on early creatures, is my thing. I want to make sure I have good blockers early game, so that's what really makes me not want to cut the Blightbelly Rat. Even though it's kind of worse than the other 2 cards. Because the thing about the Edifice is I already have 4 other 3-mana cards, and the thing about the Quicksilver Fishers, I have 3 5-mana cards, which is also kind of a lot, because I've got 3 Fishers. They're like a good way to end the game, but I feel like our Trawler Drakes and Serum Core Chimera is like already a pretty solid way to end the game, and of course we have the Bomb Ovika as well, so I feel like I don't need this many Fishers. I'm going to drop to 2 Quicksilver Fishers, even though they seem pretty excellent, just so I can keep that Edifice in there. Maybe after a few bits of gameplay, we'll go back and edit the deck, but this is my very first draft of the format, so that's probably not going to happen. Probably not going to bounce around and edit the deck midway through, But I could see the cut having been Edifice for Fisher. Really depends how the format plays out, how many good 1 toughness creatures we're going to see from our opponents. There are definitely other decks where I would never consider cutting Edifice. Those are decks that are pretty aggressive, tons of good aggressive 2-drops, because then you don't have to have your opponent having 1/1s for this to be good. Because you can just, again, do the thing where you attack into a large creature of your opponent's and then kill it post-combat with this. The main thing that brings this really close to being cut is the fact that our deck isn't good at doing that. But I'm still going to keep it in over a 3rd copy of Quicksilver Fisher, because it's going to let us try out more of the cards here. So let's see how our mana looks now. Sort our cards out by color. You can also go ahead and click here, and you'll see exactly 12 blue cards, 6 black cards, 7 red cards. Actually have more red than black. That's wild. I just have more cheap black than cheap red. That's a little awkward, but double Prophetic Prism is going to be incredibly helpful here. All right. We have these Charforgers that are both black and red. These blue-red cards that are both blue and red. So we definitely want more islands than anything else. We probably want like 8 blue sources minimum. So we'll add an island right now. We're sitting at 5 black sources, 5 red sources. Yeah, we can cut a red source. Even though I technically have a tiny bit more red than black, most of our red cards are cards we can afford to play later in the game. With black, we have Blightbelly Rat and Ambulatory Edifice that we really need to play turn 3. I guess we have Charforgers in red that we really want to play on turn 3, but those are also black. So that's 4 black cards we really want to have the mana for on turn 3, and just 2 red cards we really want to have the mana for on turn 3. Hexgold Slashes can wait, and everything else is 4 mana and above. So yeah, slightly more black than red. We'll go 5 black sources, 4 red sources, and 8 blue, and then double Prophetic Prism to be incredibly helpful for the mana base. And that's going to be it. That's going to be the mana base. That's going to be the deck. We are Grixis, all hail Nicobolas, the God Pharaoh. So I'm just going to name the deck God Pharaoh's Gift, because I love me some Nicobolas nonsense. And we're going to get into the gameplay here with this sweet looking Grixis non-creature spell, oil counter, proliferate kind of deck. Looks like it's going to be a very fun one. Today's video is not going to be edited at all, so I am going to be talking through as we are in between games here, waiting to pair up. Just because I want to upload this video to you all as quickly as possible, don't want to have to spend the time editing it, and mainly processing the video takes like as long as the video is, so this video would come up much later if I edit out the in-between rounds, so figure to be timely. The first video of the format is going to be unedited, but I am going to be recording tons more early access drafts, and probably some sealeds as well, and those will be the videos coming onto the channel in the upcoming days leading up to the set's release, and those will be edited. I will keep this hand. We don't have the blue source naturally for the Trawler Drake, but I know I get to turn 3 a Charforger here, and if I flood out, I can discard this Autonomous Furnace. So this seems pretty good. Opponent starts with Terramorphic Expanse. We do already have quite a few lands here, so I think this Autonomous Furnace is going to be helpful. Get our turn 2 Prophetic Prism. I could wait on it in case I hit a blue source, then this would give an oil counter to the Trawler Drake. If I already had a blue source, I'd probably do that, but the fact that I can't play the Drake unless I put the Prism on the board means I'm just going to put the Prism on the board right now, even though it's maybe missing out on an oil counter on the Drake. Would I rather start with Charforger or Trawler Drake? Thanks to Prism, I can do either. I'm not going to play any non-creature spells next turn, so I think I'll just go for the better immediate impact, which is Charforger. Opponent could have the 2-mana counter spell, but they do not. So we will get our 2/3 and our 1/1, and Charforger's text is that whenever another creature or artifact we control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, we get an oil counter on it, and we can remove 3 to exile the top card of our library and play it this turn, so it can be potential card draw. But our opponent has the Anoint with Affliction to deal with it. Alright, well, we'll just hit for 1 and play a Trawler Drake here. No pressure from our opponent yet, no creatures in the early game. Opponent is on blue, black, and white. They've given us one poison counter already with prologue to Phyrexia or Phyrexia. Phyrexia? I am never going to know how to pronounce that. And now a rib skiff from our opponent. Very good value vehicle. It draws them a card when it hits the board, and it is a 4/4 with Toxic 2 that they crew for 3. Got another Trawler Drake to play. I can play that and cycle my Furnace. That's going to be the line. Hit for 2. If we draw any of our Proliferate, these Trawler Drakes are going to be very scary. Here's a Testament Bearer from our opponent, a 4/1 on the ground. When it dies, they get to dig some cards out of their deck, but they're just going to hit us with Rib Skiff here. Give us some more poison. We are at 3 out of 10 poison. That's already kind of scary. Wait, why couldn't I... Oh, it's not... Oh, I was playing the Furnace as if it... Oh my god. Alright, well, I'm never going to do that again. I am a buffoon. I was treating it like it was literally the cycling lands from Amonkhet, because I'm so used to those, but it's not. It's you have to sacrifice it from the board. So that's going to be... That's pretty funny. But we'll obviously just sacrifice it a turn later. It's not the biggest deal ever. Not the biggest deal ever. Take another hit from Rib Skiff here, go to 5 poison. But I do like the flavor of poison counters being in this set, as this set being the set with all the creepy crawlies, the stuff that's supposed to be like very scary, and it does give you a sense of like fear and anxiety when you're just sitting here with some poison counters on you. You're like, there's nothing I can do. Nothing I can do to get rid of those poison counters, and our opponent could always have some Proliferate doing some scary stuff in the future. So crew the Rib Skiff. They have a Porcelain Zealot to block with. I'll probably kill that with Annihilating Glare, buff my Trawler Drakes. In the process, we are down to 10 life and 5 poison. Halfway to dead to poison. We've got a Blight Belly Rat now, so we can chump block very well one time, because we get to chump block and put more counters on the Trawler Drakes. I could even sack that to the Blight Belly Rat, or the Blight Belly Rat to the Glare here. Get more damage in this turn. That's actually pretty interesting. I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to play the Rat, sack the Rat to the Glare, and we get to put 2 counters on the Trawler Drakes now. And I get to hold up a Goblin to block and hit them for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they need to deal with all of our flyers or they're dead next turn if I can hit any non-creature spell to proliferate. Could have played this land, but I'm just going to be a little spooky. Trying to have something good. Honestly, I just forgot to play it. You know how it is. I forgot I did not play a land that turn yet. But yeah, we have the chump blocker for Rib Skiff, and we have several flyers, one of which is definitely lethal, the Quicksilver Fisher, and 2 of which are likely lethal. If we have a non-land card in our top 2, then either of those will hit for 4 as well. Very close game here. We're at 10 life and 5 poison, they're at 4 life. Get our Goblin chump block here. Play it safe. Rather not go to 7 poison and 6 life. Those are both pretty scary numbers. There's a Bone Picker Scourge, a life-linking blocker because we're corrupted. That plus a removal spell is enough here. If they have an instant speed removal spell, that could win them the game. Could be enough. Urabrask's Anointer off the top with 2 oil-countered cards. They need to have instant speed removal right now, or I get to kill the Scourge. If they have instant speed removal, they respond by killing a Trawler Drake here. Rough. Alright, well, that is certainly bad for us. Now if I attack with both, they trade with this, gain 2, take 3. They go to 6 life, taking 3. They go to 3 life, so they die next turn still. I think I have to do that. Oh no, I should have just shot the face. Well, no, they would have still been at 2 life if I shot their face. Yeah, I made the right play. If I shot the face, then if they don't have instant speed removal, it's worse. And if they do, we still don't lethal them this turn anyway. All right, digging for an answer to our flyer here. They still need to kill another flyer to survive next attack. And the Anointer is big enough to trade into Ribskiff if they try to hit us with it again. They might try to hit us with Testament Bearer here, because then if I trade Anointer into that, they get another opportunity to draw into removal. Testament Bearer, I think, going to be one of Black's premium commons, because it puts me in positions like this where it's like, I'm not going to want to block here. I'm just going to take 4 and go to 6. Alright, there's a chump blocker for our opponent to block the Trawler Drake. Oh, and they're just going to pass. We've got Anoint with Affliction now. I would like to cast that after I have the Trawler Drake on the board so that I can get oil counters on both of these cards, but I am going to try to clear out their blocker and kill them in the sky. And we are going to get there. Very close game 1, but some excellent stuff from the oil counter Trawler Drake shenanigans. And we definitely learned some stuff for the future. These are not the deserts from Amonkhet. As much as I love that format is not every format. These you have to put on the board and then spend 2 mana, tap, sack them, draw a card. It's not 2 mana cycling abilities from your hand, so in the future, we're always going to turn 1 those lands. Obviously, that was the wrong play. I just got them mixed up with the other common, non-basic lands that you can filter into other cards. So, honest mistake there for having literally never played with the cards again. And one of those mistakes we'll just make one time. That's a very quick error to correct in the future. Just always get those tap lands out of the way at the start. Alright, all 3 colors, a Hex Gold / early game. Really cool stuff. We are against Reed Duke. Reed Duke, a professional Magic the Gathering player, one of the best players of all time on the Hall of Fame and everything like that, I'm pretty sure. So, I'm not going to feel horrible if I lose this game, but I'm going to do my best. Reed starts off with a mountain. I do like this background, it's pretty interesting. Move John into a Dross Pits as well, so we have another land that we can filter out later in the game. I think I'm just going to play Ichor Synthesizer here. Before we start playing any other spells, that way we start getting oil counters on some stuff. And if we get to 4 oil counters, this becomes a 3/3 that can't be blocked. There's an Ichor Plate Golem from our opponent, a 2/3. Does that have Toxic? Does not have Toxic, so I can't kill it with Hex Gold /. That is a really nice card. We'd love to have one of those in our deck. Buff all the oil counters on stuff. We did see one during the draft. I don't think I was as heavy into oil counters at the time that I saw it, though. I'm actually going to just go Trawler Drake this turn before I play Experimental Augury or Mesmerizing Dose so that I can get more Proliferate action. We've got 2 Proliferate cards in hand, which is super nice with 2 oil counter cards on the board. The way that these cards work is the second I cast the spell, it gets an oil counter, so it will have a counter on it before my Proliferate resolves, so I will be able to proliferate up. Alright, well, Dross Pits it is. I can Hex Gold / the Anointer at least. It's a 4/2. That seems like a reasonable trade. 1 mana for that. I'm going to Augury first, though. It could change my line. It probably doesn't. And again, we'll get the oil counter on Synthesizer first, so I'll still get to Proliferate it. So we're going to draw a land here because we have got the 5-drop Fissures in hand. Sorry, Ovika. Much as I want to put an Ovika in hand, that seems wrong. Maybe it could be right to put a Trawler Drake in hand, but I don't have double blue, so probably not again. I think we just get the second blue. Because if we don't have a second blue mana, I can't cast Mesmerizing Dose or either Quicksilver Fissure. Yeah. A little awkward, seeing 2 really good cards alongside there. but a land is good for us, so we'll just take the land. Alright, 3 out of 4 counters for Synthesizer to get really scary. And Trawler Drake's a 4/4 flyer already, which is just bonkers stuff going on. There's a Furnace Strider from our opponent. They can give it haste. Oh, it comes with another oil counter from the Golem, and they give it haste here. Well, we'll probably lock it down with Mesmerizing Dose and buff the Drake. But they can give any creature they play haste now with the Furnace Strider? This is really sketchy. The Golem into Strider. Very big threat. They're at 15. We hit for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We kill them in 2 swings if I dose, so I guess we kill them in 2 swings if I augury as well. But then I'm taking 7 on the crackback, not counting another haste creature with Strider. Again, they can give any creature haste. I think I have to dose here and hope they don't have removal. They just play another creature and it's not big enough to kill us yet. And we just hit them 2 swings in a row and win. That's our game plan. Again, if I just augury here and then I don't hit an island, so I can't augury plus dose, then I'm just gonna die to pretty much any creature. Alright, fingers crossed here. If our opponent can't remove our Trawler Drake, then he's gonna die. We are gonna win the game if they can't kill it. Please no. Please no removal. It would be possible, seems unlikely, but it would be possible for our opponent to play enough just power to kill us here. If Reed can play 9 power worth of creatures, which is more possible with an Ichor Plate Golem on the board than otherwise. Let's see. No, Reed can't do it, and we are 2-0. Heading into game number 3. Alright, no removal. Means a gigantic Trawler Drake just gonna get there again. Very, very happy with this deck. This has been a fun one so far. 2-0 heading into round number 3. Very nice oil counter proliferate shenanigans. Here we go. Game 3. We have Blightbelly Rat on turn 2 and Trawler on 3. We obviously need to head a red source pretty badly, but I don't think it's worth a mulligan. We have our good 2 early game plays. Ichor Synthesizer as well, so now we have 3 early game plays. Alright, nothing from our opponent yet. I think I'm going to go Rat before Synthesizer, because I'm probably not going to play a non-creature spell for a little while. And if my opponent doesn't play a 3-drop creature, getting a poison counter on them to proliferate is going to be nice. Maybe get towards Anoint being fully corrupted. But Contagious Vorak from our opponent, probably green's best common. A 3-mana 3/3 that also pulls out a land from their top 4 and gives you a proliferate if you don't hit one or you don't want one. Just a very good card. 3-mana 3/3 with tremendous upside. Obviously stops our Blightbelly Rat from doing much here. Play the Trawler Drake. Hoping to hit an island or a mountain here. Which anything but a swamp would be a good land drawn. Axiom Engraver from our opponent allows them to discard cards to draw cards. We do hit an island, which means I can play Synthesizer and Augury this turn, which is nice. So we will pre-combat so that I get extra damage off of Trawler Drake. Pick up the Draw Spits here. Get towards Ovika, trying to get to 7 mana. If I pick up a red card, I just can't cast it anyway till I hit a mountain. And I only have, I think, like 4 red sources and 2 prisms in the deck. So I think we have to just take Draw Spits. Draw Spits, as good as those red cards are. They are uncastable right now. Volt charge on the Trawler Drake, sad day. Sad day, one counter away from getting it out of range of that. No longer have a win condition yet, but if I get 2 more counters on the Synthesizer, that threatens 3 damage every turn to our opponent, which is pretty good. And get 1 more counter by anointing something, but I don't think I want to do that just yet. Neither of these creatures are that scary. We'll save anoint for now. We know we're playing next turn. We've got the 5 mana for Fissure. We just had to play the tapped land this turn, unfortunately. So we will have to wait a turn for it. Might have to discard Hex Gold Slash to draw a card. Again, digging for the red source for Ovika. If we hit it, we'll be at 6 lands. Is Kuldotha Cackler scarier than Condacious Vorak? Ooh, Ichor Plate Golem is scarier than both of those. So we're going to exile Ichor Plate Golem with Anoint with Affliction. Send in the 3/3, they kill Synthesizer here. Well, obviously I don't want Synthesizer to die, but I guess if I chump block with Blight Belly Rat, Synthesizer's at 3 oil, and then I can Anoint and it's at 4. That's kind of interesting. And then I play Fissure as the blocker. Probably not actually super worth it here. It could be. I'm going to start trying to race. Yeah, I don't know if this race is going to work out, but I guess I'm going to try to do it. Because it's fancy. Synthesizer to 4 poison now, or 4 oil counters now. Now it is a 3/3. Big enough to trade into Vorak, or I can get in unblocked for the rest of the game with that. There's the red source, so I can play Fissure and have the red up for Slash. I just have to discard exactly like whatever I draw. Yeah, almost anything in my deck I'm going to discard over this mountain here, but we'll do this first just to make sure it's not something I want to discard the mountain for to keep. Mesmerizing Dose. Ooh. Yeah, I don't get that much value from the Proliferate. Maybe I actually discard the Hex Gold Slash. None of their creatures have Toxic. Shooting one of these for 2 damage doesn't even stack up into like blocking plus shooting for 2 to kill them. So I actually think Hex Gold Slash is the discard. Trying to get to 7 for Ovika, and then we have Dose to remove anything. Instead of Slash, which doesn't actually kill anything. Probably rather trade a 3/3 into their creatures than a 4/3, and now I have a really good late game win con. So we actually play defensive here and get ready to make some trades on blocks. Just trying to get to 7 mana for Ovika and then using that to win the game. Because when we get to 7 mana, we get to drop Ovika. Next turn, we get to cycle away one of our lands to draw another card. So we start coming pretty far ahead. And then we're going to have to Mesmerizing Dose the 4/5 because we are not going to... I mean, I guess I can just double block it. If they don't have the 1 red mana 2 damage spell, that'll be a solid double block. If they do, it won't be great for me. You take a chunk of damage here. No 1 red mana 2 damage spell, please. No 1 red mana spell at all. There's also a +2/+2 combat trick. That would also be a 2 for 2. Yeah, I guess either way is a 2 for 2 trade, which isn't horrible. But if they have no tricks, then this is awesome. We just kill their biggest creature. Awesome. Alright, no tricks. Unless they're just going to shoot the Fissure post-combat. And that would work too. Well, they might use Engraver to dig for the Hex Gold Slash. No, they're just going to play a Predation Steward. Alright, there's Prophetic Prism and Mesmerizing Dose as the plays. We're going to dose down the Cackler, otherwise it attacks as a 4/3 trample still, because they have 2 cards with oil. The Steward's ability is actually pretty threatening at this point in the game. +2/+2 to the Vorak, attack with a 5/5. Yikes, Cackler's still the biggest creature though, so we're going to dose that, but let's Prism first, see what's up. Annihilating Glare. Gonna be good when we have Oviko on the board and potentially get some goblins, but not great for now. Do I even dose the Steward? What happens if I dose Steward? I dose Steward, trade into Cackler, take 4. Otherwise, I dose the Cackler, Steward buffs Vorak, I take 5, go to 8. But I still have Fisher blocking other creatures. And I can Glare Vorak or Steward. Yeah, I think I'd dose the Cackler, and then Glare something else next turn. If I don't have Ovika mana, if I do, I just play a 6/6 and they can't attack into a 6/6. Alright, Predation Steward doing its thing. Contagious Vorak attacking as a 5/5, and we gotta take it, go down to 8. Trawler Drake is the draw. I cannot afford to play that and Glare unless I sacrifice a creature, which I clearly don't want to do. Oh, I could sack the Prism. Oh my god, it's sacrifice an artifact or creature. Oh my god, the fact that you can sack Prism is so good. Maybe I should have played it last turn, but I guess it weirdly plays out well that I didn't. Because now I get to proliferate on the Trawler Drake. Okay. Yeah, I guess we're sacking Prophetic Prism. Oh my god. Yeah, another one of those new format things. I just completely forgot this can sack artifacts. Well, that's super good for the future. Kind of want to kill Vorak, because the Steward can only use the oil counter one more time, but they probably have Proliferate. So I feel like I'm supposed to kill Steward. Yeah. And we pass the turn, still 1 mana away from Ovika. As our kind of win con here. Yeah, if I kill Vorak and they just play like another 3/3, then, well, shoot, you know. But if I kill Stewart, we can trade and then we can block the others really well with Ovika. Alright, Vorak coming in. Gotta trade. Gotta survive here. Oil Gorger Troll, very good with oil counter stuff. Gain 3 life, draw a card, and get a 3/4 on board. Pretty absurd card all around. Another one of Green's premium commons for sure. That is also not a land for Ovika. We're halfway through the deck here. Gotta be near land at this point. And we can scry with Glistener Seer. But I can't block the Oil Gorger Troll well, so I think I just hit them for 2. Take the 3, because I'm not going to chump here. If I don't hit a land next turn, I might have to just cycle the Dross Pits away. Just sacrifice the Dross Pits. Really rather not. Until I've cast my 7 mana card. Adaptive Spore Singer, give something +2/+2 Vigilance. God dang it, now they hit for 6. Or I chump block with the Seer. Solid draw here. Keeping them very aggressive. I go to 2 life if I don't chump here. Alright. Go to 5. If I untap and play Ovika, what position am I in? I have a 2/2 flyer and a 6/6 on board. I've got another creature as well. Yeah, that old Gorger Troll, just put them really far ahead with the 2-for-1, enter the battlefield, draw a card ability. Okay, so I untap, I have a 2/2 and a 6/6. Block, block, take 3. I do survive if I hit a land here, so I'm not going to cycle Dross Pits. Okay. Let's see. Fingers crossed they're out of gas, because all it's going to take for them to win the game is just like one more reasonable card here. But if they're out of gas, this is where we could stabilize if we hit pretty much any non-creature spell. It's going to be monumental for us. Alright, and they're not out of gas, so we are dead. We can block the 3/4 and we take 5 exactly. Very good deck from our opponent here, and unfortunately it just took us far too long to hit the 7th mana. Had a shot here if we hit it sooner, but really good green-red oil counter aggro stuff from the opponent, going to punish us for running the 7-drop. And that was what I was saying earlier when I drafted it. Really high impact card, but you always have to be worried about running the 7 mana plays, because you certainly can't survive until you have 7 mana in every game. And sometimes you get right on the cusp where technically I survived till I hit 7 mana, but then they kill me the turn that I play it anyway, so I kind of just didn't survive till I hit 7 mana. Being the massive downside of our bomb rare there. Just how much mana it is. Again, real powerful card, but it did get us killed there by just being a 7-drop instead of just any kind of solid cheaper play. So 2-1 heading into game 4 now. We've got a turn 1 Glistener Seer. We get to hold up a Hex Gold Slash, and then we have a Quicksilver Fisher. Very happy with this. The only thing that isn't great is hitting 3 of my 4 red sources, and not having a black source for the Blight Belly Rat, but the Scry from Glistener Seer can help out with that. I could even have put a stop in my upkeep there, and I probably should have, but I'll just start scrying during their end step instead. Contagious Vorak from our opponent. Excellent, excellent green common. It is a 2-for-1 immediately. That was the other thing last game. Opponent had a lot of 2-for-1s between Vorak and Old Growth Troll, both drawing a card when they hit the board, and of course being able to filter away any bad cards with their 1/3. Alright, scry with the Glistener Seer. We have an Experimental Augury. Yeah, that digs for a black source and puts an oil counter back onto the Seer. Seems fine with me. That will be the play this turn. I can do that and still play Slash. I'm going to play it just main phase, so I could play a tap land if I draw into one here. Prophetic Prism versus Swamp is actually kind of difficult. If I take the Prism, the next turn I'm just playing a Prism and nothing else. But then I can hit double blue and my black source. If I take the Swamp, I don't have to spend any time spending any mana on anything, so I can just play my Blight Belly Rat next turn, but then I can't hit my double blue cards. Prism lets me play my double blue and my black card, so I think I take Prism here. Even though it's going to be pretty slow, like next turn, I just don't put anything on the board again. It just makes the mana function well with double blues and a black card in here. Fixing our mana in multiple directions instead of just one. Here comes Contagious Vorak. We're going to take 3 damage. Now, this card already seemed like a premium common, but it's just been playing super well against us. A 3/3 is just big in this format, at least against our deck. You know, like our big creatures are 4/3s. So 3 power, 3 toughness, just really good stats, and we're probably dead. Miglaw's Maze Crusher, if you haven't seen my set review, I gave an S tier to. It's a ridiculous bomb that's incredibly hard to beat. It's 3 mana for a 4/4, already far above the vanilla test, and it has these really good threat of activation effects where it's kind of impossible to block it and kill it. because it comes with 5 oil counters. They can remove 2 to give it +2/+2, so it functionally fights other creatures as a 6/6 or an 8/8. It also gives you main deck artifact enchantment removal, as well as potential vigilance and menace. Really, really busted card, and we're going to need something incredible to kill it, because Mesmerizing Dose doesn't even do it. They can just remove 3 counters and blow up the dose. Miglaws is going to be very bad for us. Alright, Glistener Seer hits an island for us, so I can play Dose and Fissure without using Prism. Although I can already just play them with Prism unless they blow it up with Maze Crusher. I guess I play around them blowing it up. And it leaves me open to playing Dose this turn if I want to, but I don't think I do, because again, if I Dose either of their creatures, they can just use Miglaws to blow up the Dose anyway. At least they have to spend 3 mana to do it, so they kind of take a turn off. I guess I could just Prism and Rat then. This is fine. We know we have 5 mana for Fissure by keeping that island. We'll be playing that next turn. Another Quicksilver Fissure. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I guess I kind of forgot when I was accounting in the Prophetic Prism, it can tap the turn you play it. It's an artifact, not a creature. It's not going to be summoning 6, so we do get to play Prism and a creature in the same turn. So I guess the pick off of the Anticipate, the Experimental Augury earlier, was pretty easily the Prophetic Prism. Furnace Strider. Yep, that's just a big hasty beef that has been playing super well so far in this early access event. Gotten beaten down by a lot of those. Yeah, it's just such a big creature. The fact that my removal doesn't work against this Miglaws is just, I'm just so dead so fast to this thing. Yeah, I mean, we're just monumentally dead. Take 11, go to 6. Play a Quicksilver Fissure that threatens to block it, but then they just buff it instead. I play my removal, they just remove my removal. I just can't, I literally can't do anything against Miglaw's Maze Crusher. The Furnace Strider and Vorak, just premium commons before and after it, make it an kind of just unbeatably aggressive curve from our opponent. There's always like a chance against a card as good as Miglaw's if it's like all by itself, but there's 2 premium commons surrounding it, beating me down. Ambulatory Edifice does not do a dang thing right now. Charforger does. Don't have the mana to Charforger and Dose, but I can Charforger and Slash. I get some chump blocks here. This is just as good as Dose would be. Dose is going to stop one of these things from hitting me 1 time. Charforger is going to stop 2 of these things from hitting me 1 time. Just give me a double chump. And one of those I can use a Hexgold Slash during their end step with. So I think I put the 1/1 on the 3/3 and the 2/3 on Miglaws, and then if they tap out for something, I get to kill Miglaws during their end step, and if they don't tap out, then I just get to kill Vorak instead with Hexgold Slash. Because I can't kill the Miglaws if they're not tapped out, because they can just buff it up for 2 mana. So yeah, I think Charforger on the 4/4 and the 1/1 Goblin on the 3/3 is how we're going to block this turn if they don't play any removal. Play a Magmatic Sprinter. Okay, they still have the 2 mana up to buff Miglaws. Which means we might even go Charforger on the Sprinter then, and then 1/1 on the Vorak to kill it still, and then we just have to chump with Glistener Seer as well at this point. Okay, they're going to put the counters on the Furnace Strider so they can still give more things haste later. And another Contagious Vorak. Really, really good deck here from our opponent. No mana up to buff Miglaws though, but now they're just like hasting for well. Not actual lethal, but feels like just there's no comeback from this. With the amount of hasting damage they're just spreading around here. But yeah, at least I get to kill Miglaws. Means I do get to Mesmerizing Dose something. Dross Pits, no thanks. Down to 4. Yeah, Dose is not going to save us. We're just daubers. Even if I lock down Strider, they can give their other threats haste still. Yeah, and I can only play one spell. Extra dead. How do you want your goblet done today? Our opponent said, well done. Extra crispy. Just a sick green-red beatdown deck here. Might have had a chance without the Miglaws in the middle there, kind of nullifying the Mesmerizing Dose, but it would have still been really hard. Multiple Voraks, Furnace Strider, hitting super hard as well. Apologies again for this being unedited. This is another moment I would usually edit out, but in the interest of getting the footage to you as quickly as possible, I'm not going to edit this out, and we have been told not to concede if we can avoid it in the early access event, so everybody gets to play all their cards, show off all the fun stuff. So we're going to hang out with our opponent for a little bit here. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to be chilling, vibing. There we go. We're going to play Swamp Pass turn and allow them their victory. There's the Magmatic Sprinter again, as you expect. And there we go. 9 damage to the face is going to end that game. We are now 2-2, heading into round number 5. 2 wins and 2 losses under our belt. I really, really like this deck. I think we've just ran against some very powerful red-green aggro decks, 2 of them in a row. That last one we had no shot whatsoever. That was just an incredible deck, really, really premium commons and stuff. The one before that was still a pretty excellent deck, but if we drew a little bit of a different sequence of cards, I think we would have had a shot to win that one. Just some poor luck there, not getting the 7 mana for the 7-drop, or not getting a cheaper card than the 7-drop to help us in the early game. So 2-2, hopefully we can use this deck for all its work here and rally into some more victories, but we'll see. This is a mono-colored hand in a 3-color deck. I don't think we can keep, even though we have 2 playables. I think I have to mulligan that. This is 2 colors with Prism, which makes it all 3. Great 3-drop and 4-drop in the hand. Probably get rid of Mesmerizing Dose here and try to curve up Prism into Forger into Chimera. Might even get rid of Hex Gold Slash, actually, because Mesmerizing Dose is so good with the Serum Core Chimera, where it gets 2 oil counters from it. I could actually see that. Most hands I would keep the Hex Gold Slash, the cheap burn spell, over the Mesmerizing Dose, but with the Chimera really, really enjoying the Mesmerizing Dose, I'm just going to keep that instead. So we go Prism, next turn we Char Forger. Ooh, and we've got an Experimental Augury, so we have 2 non-creature spells that both proliferate to go with that Chimera. So if they don't kill this Chimera, it's guaranteed to be getting at least 4 oil counters over time, which will be very good. Exuberant Fuseling from our opponent, 1 mana, 1/1 trample. Whenever any other artifact or creature they control is put into the graveyard, it's going to get bigger. Turns into a 2/1, then a 3/1, so on and so forth. So pretty scary. But our 1/1 Goblin from Charforger will always be able to trade into that, so not that worried. Even if they proliferate 20 times, we can trade a 1/1 into it. Although then we would be taking 19 trample damage, so alright. Hopefully they don't proliferate 20 times, but outside of that, Phyrexian Goblin for Exuberant Fuseling feels pretty good. Kuldotha Cackler. Yeah, this card's been playing really well as well. Very good at attacking with all the just solid oil counter creatures. So it already attacks as a 3/3 trample. We hit our mana for the Serum Core Chimera, so we're just going to play it. Probably Mesmerizing Dose this Cackler. There's a Charforger of their own. That will also be getting some oil counters to make the Cackler scarier. Not until something dies, though. So currently Cackler just attacks as a 3/3 trample. We can block with a 2/4 unless they have a slash. Or there's also a 1 mana +2/+2 combat trick at instant speed. Which, judging by all the just powerful oil cards we've been seeing, I think that combat trick's actually going to be really good. The 1 red mana +2/+2 put 2 oil counters on something. Actually going to end up just being premium. So now I can Mesmerizing Dose and Experimental Augury and just go to town. Let's do it. Oh yeah, we're going straight to town here. We draw a card, discard a card, kill Charforger now. Off of Serum Core Chimera. And then we just keep shooting them in the sky for 2 with our flyer. So we're tapping down the Cackler because it doesn't have any abilities outside of its ability to attack and block. Whereas the Charforger we do want to just fully kill, get it off the board, because it actually does have the activated oil counter ability if it sticks around. Prism letting us cast the Experimental Augury here. Best card here is another Experimental Augury. We probably actually discard Quicksilver Fisher. When I use this, now we draw a card, discard a card, kill Charforger. Yeah, I think I like Charforger number 2 more than Quicksilver Fisher, because next turn I can play Charforger and hold up another Augury, and then use Chimera again. Now we kill Charforger when we discard the Quicksilver Fisher. Serum Core Chimera is nuts. Fuseling gets bigger, but again, we have got the 1/1 for that. We can take some trample damage whenever they send that in. Alright, get in there, 2/4 flyer. And next turn, with 1 Experimental Augury, we immediately put the Serum Core Chimera back to 3 counters and kill another card when we draw and discard. Beautiful stuff from Serum Core Chimera. That is super fun. Five mana up for our opponent now. They're going to drop that Furnace Strider. Probably Red's best common creature. It's been doing great stuff. Although Cackler's been great as well. I think just red oil counter stuff in general. Looking very good in the format. Alright, send in a 4/5 Furnace Strider. That is very, very big, so we'll just have to take 4. Try to search for more removal with Experimental Augury here. Ooh, now I have an Atmosphere Surgeon that gets oil counters every time I play a spell. Start sending things into the sky to find lethal a bit sooner. I don't know if it's better to put that on the board or keep it in hand to maybe discard the Chimera. I think I just... like, if I put this on board, I want to play it before I Augury so I get 2 counters on it. But I think I need the option of discarding it to Chimera. over Charforger, although I don't need to discard anything to Chimera immediately. Yeah, no, I think I actually just play Surgeon and Augury here. And then I just don't use this yet. I guess I can kill Fuseling. That's not bad. I might still use it. There's Ovika. We're only at 5 mana though, so I probably have to just take Glare and kill the 4/5 with it. Get more charge counters when I do that, as well as getting an oil counter on Charforger. That seems very reasonable. Does this work when artifacts we control die? Whenever another creature or artifact. Alright, beautiful. Sacking Prisms to Annihilating Glare is one of the best things we've been doing in this deck. I kind of wish I had the second copy of Annihilating Glare. I don't remember what I took over it, but ooh, is it good to sack that Prism to Annihilating Glare once our mana is all in order. Draw, discard here. Anoint or Charforger? Well, sorry, Charforger. Anoint is... well, anything I can kill with Anoint, I can probably also kill with Chimera. We are just running laps around our opponent's small creatures with Serum Core Chimera. This is a really, really nice, really synergistic deck here. Been doing some really, really cool combos of all these cards just working together swell. Working together swimmingly. See what our opponents got here. They are on black-red with 6 mana up. There are a lot of big bombs in the format, so we're not guaranteed to be winning yet, but our current position is very, very good. Okay. 3 counters on Surgeon. I might as well give it flying here. And then we'll just play a Charforger. I think I actually just play a Charforger pre-combat and attack with everybody. This way, if we trade goblins with our opponent, we get an oil counter on both Charforgers. So it's worth an attack with the 1/1 goblin as well, and just to offer the trade instead of giving it flying. Chump block from our opponent is reasonable. We hit for 4 here. Oh, it could be Hex Gold Slash to kill the Charforger. Sure is. Alright. Also reasonable. Get a counter on Charforger number 2 and pass the turn. I actually have multiple ways to draw a card, discard a card. With 3 Quicksilver Fishers, there's 2 more in here, so if I draw into another one, I'd want to play it and then discard this mountain to keep whatever I draw off of it. Whisper of the Dross, pretty great against the 2/1 Atmosphere Surgeon, but they don't have anything to proliferate onto. But still, does kill one of our creatures. Another land for us. Well, we don't need to keep all these in hand, so we'll just drop one of them. Just need to hold on to 1. Attack with everybody. Pass turn. They're down to 3 life now. Oh, and I know my lands are not the most flavorful. They're very like Kamigawa style, but they do not have the Phyrexia All Will Be One full art basics in the early access event. Those won't be out until the full release of the set. So, unfortunately, no perfectly flavorful full arts. I could just go for the regular lands, but I love me some full arts. Alright. They're at 3 life, so an all attack kills them unless they have a good instant. Alright, and that is going to be game. We are 3-2, at least an even record out of the very first draft of Phyrexia. All will be won during the early access event. Right. Not super unhappy with that. Again, I really just love playing with this deck, so I think I'd still be pretty unhappy whenever I lose just because it means I don't get to play with this deck anymore. But 50-50 first time with the set, good enough. Good enough, but hopefully we can get some more wins so we have some more time with this really fun Grixis deck. Heading into round number 6 now, 3-2. And here we are, double Prophetic Prism with a Trawler Drake. I'm going to have to play 1 before I play the Drake so that I can get the blue mana for it, but then I have Mana Flood Security with 2 different spheres, so that's excellent. And now I can just play Surgical Bay and just play Drake turn 3 and then play multiple Prisms, guaranteed to be attacking with it as a 2-2 on turn 4 and then a 3-3 on turn 5. It's a little bit slow, so if opponent has a good aggressive start, we could be in trouble. And they do have a Blight Belly Rat, but I did draw into Charforger, which is annoyingly good at stopping any early aggro, so we'll just play that here and stop their 2-2 from attacking into our 2-3. Alright, and our opponent did the correct Glistener Seer play of setting a stop for your upkeep, so you can scry before you draw if you're not going to need to block with the Glistener Seer. That way you get a scry out of it before you get your first draw. The only problem with that is it does lock you into pretty much never blocking with the Seer, because then from now on they're going to want to keep doing it in their upkeep. For the most part, since they didn't get to just do it in the end step. Alright, Prologue to Phyrexia is going to get a poison counter on us no matter what, and now a 1/1 flyer to potentially put more poison onto us. We're going to play a Trawler Drake here, and now the goal is to get to 7 mana for Ovika. We already have 6 right now, so I only need to draw 1 more land by the end of this. That being said, we are under some poison pressure here. Don't think I'm under enough poison pressure to want to trade my Trawler Drake into their Siphoner, but I might be under enough to hold it up on blocks instead of trying to attack with it. Annihilating Glare to kill the Charforger here. Send in with both. Yeah, that's pretty threatening. 3 poison now. Alright. Double Prism for sure. It's the only play we have. We do have all 7 mana for Ovika as soon as we make it that far up. Now we have a Hex Gold Slash. That's beautiful. Experimental Augury at the ready as well. Now I can try to race them. This rat just keeps hitting me for 1 poison a turn, so it's going to take 7 turns for them to kill me with that, but they could proliferate a little. I think I slash the flyer because I'm not going to want to hold back a 4/4 every turn when I can start trying to actually race here. Got an Augury upcoming as well for next turn, which is going to be proliferating onto the Drake and guaranteeing I get to play something else. Yeah, I think we're actually just legitimately racing now. Race with the poison. A 4/4 flyer kills them in 4 swings. And their poison probably also kills us in 4 swings. But now we have Augury to make it a 6/6 flyer, which is massive. Grab a Serum Core Chimera, which we can afford to cast, so we just straight up have a blocker for the 2/2. And next turn we're tapping out for Ovika as a 6/6 flyer with Ward 3 and 3 life. Probably chump blocking a 6/6 this turn with our 1/1. but just playing some ridiculous flyers onto the board. Persistent Siphoner and a Retrofitter can turn one of their artifacts into a 4/4, but they have none, luckily. This can turn artifact creatures into a 4/4, so I think it's really nice if you have enough artifact creatures, but not have any on board here. I'm pretty sure we tap out for this gigantic thing. For an 8 damage to the face if I attack both. Then I could play Charforger if they just don't block at all. If they chump the 6/6, then I play Ovika. Then 2 turns in Sky. Yeah, we just do this. Attack both, play Ovika, kill them in the Sky next turn. That's the plan. We take 6, but we block the 2/2 Toxic. And then attack with everybody in the Sky. Draw Skull Bomb, returns a creature from their graveyard to their hand for 3 mana, but that is going to be too expensive to replay it, so they're just going to draw the card, see if they hit removal, and they do not, so that is going to be 4 and 2. And now we would, if I wasn't playing on Wizards of the Coast's dime, again, thank you very much to Wizards of the Coast for the access to this early access account and everything you see within it. If this were a regular Premier Draft, this is where I'm happy, because 4 and 3 gives you 1,400 gems, every card that you drafted, and 3 additional packs, which is pretty much the break-even point at a 1,500 gem entry fee. So really nice stuff for our first ever draft of this format. This is all red and black sources with entirely blue cards, so this is another mulligan for us. All blue and red sources with 2 black cards, but we have Hexgold Slash and the Drake, and we can put one of these on bottom. Already got Slash for 1 cheap removal spell. I feel like I get rid of the Anoint. Charforgers has always just been really nice. I mean, Anoint has been really nice too. Hard pick between them. I guess Anoint's a little better with Drake, but if my opponent's really aggressive, the Charforger would be a lot better at blocking. Alright, Sinew Dancer turn 1, not that worried about that. For 1,000,000 mana, they can tap one of my creatures. If we become corrupted, though, they can start doing that for only 1 mana, which is where the card is decent, but again, not that scary, and we have Slash for it if we really need to. Gonna try to hold off on Slash until I play the Drake to get another oil counter on it, but if we're under too much pressure, I can just Slash early. Or if I have double Slash, that would also be fine. I don't think I'm going to, though. I'm just taking 2 damage now. Now if we're corrupted, their whole board gets +1/+1. Every time this Incisor Glider attacks, this terrifying amalgam of teeth. And now Malcator's Watcher, that is a lot of 1-power creatures over there. Alright. We are pretty okay with that. They still are very far from corrupting us. We just play a Trawler Drake. Fingers crossed, no removal from them. If they can play removal, then we're just going to have to start throwing removal spells at all these tiny creatures, which is not where it's at. But if they can't get removal, then we just start blocking with like a 3/3 Trawler Drake very quickly. Cephalopod Sentry, pretty big. Can Hexgold Slash at instant speed to make the Drake a 3/3? Kill one of the artifacts with a Hexgold Slash. Can also Anoint with Affliction to exile the Malcator's Watcher to get rid of one of the artifacts as well as stop them from drawing a card off of it. Yeah, I kind of have to hold up Trawler Drake on blocks here. But I think I'm waiting on the Anoint to use it as kind of a surprise if my opponent doesn't have a counter spell. They might even Sinew Dancer down the Trawler Drake. Spend all their mana to do that. 4 mana, tap it, tap target creature. Alright, cool. So they don't have the mana to put anything else on board or make their creatures any better. We just kill one of the artifacts before they deal combat damage. That way the sentry doesn't hit us that hard. We are down to 11. Got the Slash to kill a Dancer, which I think we have to do now to make sure we have a blocker. And then I play a Glistener Seer to start scrying. Doesn't block anything they have. How well do I race here? I mean, I take 3 damage a turn. Three damage a turn means that I'm going to die in 4 swings total. Trawler Drake's going to kill them in 5. But I get to play a Quicksilver Fisher after this. I don't think I'm racing yet. I think I'm going to hold this up as a blocker for 1 turn, but after this turn I think it turns into a race once we get Quicksilver Fisher down. But I want to see what else they have first, because exactly that. If they have removal for the Trawler Drake, then we're not going to race well. But I guess if they have removal for Drake, it wasn't going to attack anyway. Another Incisor Glider. Alright, we're going to have to play Quicksilver Fisher next turn to block the 1/3s. X Gold Slash looking very sad here. Yep, we're just on Quicksilver Fisher. They have no creatures on the ground, so we might as well scry now. Another Trawler Drake? Interesting. Drake, block a glider and slash it. Might be better than Quicksilver Fisher. Although I take 4 damage if I do that. I take 4 damage if I play Quicksilver Fisher also, because they could just still attack with everybody and hit with Sentry guaranteed. Stressful game here. Fingers crossed, no more cheap removal. We actually get to get a block off with Trawler Drake. Well, we're dead. They can Skull Bomb one of these up to being a 3/5. So I'm forced into a chump block now. Because I can't block and kill another one because the other 2 are attacking for 7. I guess they attack for 6. If the Skull Bomb goes into their graveyard, then the Sentry's a 3/5 again. Only a sorcery speed ability, so they're just going to attack with Cephalopod then? No, they're going to attack with... Okay. No tricks in hand, please. No tricks in hand. Allow me to just go to 2 life. Scry for removal for Cephalopod Sentry 1 time. Not removal for Cephalopod Sentry. Also not removal for Cephalopod Sentry. Keep it in hand to play Fisher, discard it and draw a card. We're in the chump zone now. Really need to find our destroy target creature planeswalker spell. So if they have a removal spell, we're dead. Because they remove one of these and then they use Skull Bomb on the other one. Buff the glider. Force us into the double chump. Yep, that's absolutely devastating. Rough. All we needed was just 1 spell that can actually kill a Cephalopod Sentry, and we would have been in an excellent position. We could just never find it there. Like, if I started that game with my destroy target creature in hand, would have been a beautiful game in our favor, but Cephalopod Sentry is a super explosive card, so it is going to kill us if we don't kill it, and we didn't kill it, so... I guess I'm not quite dead still, technically. If they don't have removal, we block the Sentry and take 1. But I'm pretty sure we're out of it. Ooh, okay, I have changed my mind. We probably would not have won this game if we had removal for Sentry in the opening hand, because they were going to end the game with Eternal Wanderer, one of the most S-tier bombs in the entire format. They get to pick the best creature controlled by them and the worst creature controlled by us, and make the board only those, and then they get to spit out 2/2s every turn. They can also just exile one of our creatures until end of turn and kill us that way. But with this card, even if we were in a good position, all of a sudden they can just be like, okay, I'll keep Cephalopod Sentry, you'll keep Trawler Drake. Everything else gets sacrificed because they choose the creatures with that -4. They don't only do that, they then keep a 2 loyalty Planeswalker that keeps spitting out 2/2s with double strike that we can only attack with 1 creature each combat. So we were dying to Eternal Wanderer no matter what. But we pretty much died to Cephalopod Sentry here. If you want to think about it that way, we can't be mad that we lost to a ridiculous bomb rare, because we didn't. We lost to Cephalopod Sentry. This could have been any removal spell and we'd be dead. Good stuff from the build around. Signpost uncommon for blue-white. The Cephalopod Sentry opponent living the artifact dream there. Another deck I do really want to draft. Yeah, but that's going to end the draft. I really like this format so far. That was a lot of fun. We got to do really fun blue-red non-creature spell stuff with a good black splash as well with Prophetic Prism. Just a nice like Grixis non-creature spells deck. I think the deck was pretty great. Pretty happy with how I drafted overall for my first time in the format. I'm sure as the format progresses, a lot of my pick orders will change, and looking back on the format, looking back on my first draft ever, I'll be a little cringy about some things that I took over other cards. But again, for first time, I think we drafted a really synergistic deck that was a lot of fun to play around with. I had a great time during the games, and a lot of the decks that we were losing to were really cool decks that I'd like to draft as well, especially that blue-white artifacts deck. I'm a big Nicol Bolas fan, so I love just Grixis stuff like this, and now we've drafted that one time, so super happy with that. But the other thing I love in constructed formats like Historic Brawl is artifact shenanigans, so would love to draft the aggressive just blue-white artifact creatures deck that our final opponent had as well. The Cephalopod Sentry deck will be a fun one to draft in the future. So really cool format. Absolutely looking forward to how this format shapes up. Really love the oil counter stuff. The toxic stuff to trigger corrupted cards is cool. Proliferate was really fun with the cards that get oil counters when you cast non-creature spells. Serum Core Chimera was busted. Anointer was great. The Charforgers were really solid blockers. The Trawler Drakes were fun ways to try to close out the game. Just had a whole ton of fun with everything this deck was doing, and I think a lot of things our opponent's decks were doing were really cool as well to play around with. Just really solid Gruul beats and blue-white artifact nonsense. Some cool decks to test out in the future. But that's going to end today's video. Once again, I would like to thank Wizards of the Coast very much for providing me with the early access account, and other than that, since this is an unedited video, unfortunately, I will not be thanking the Patreons with the image today, but thank you very much to all of my Patreons, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out that Patreon link in the link in the description below. You can also check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below if you want to catch me live sometimes. We will probably be drafting some more Kamigawa Neon Dynasty in the coming days, until the release of Phyrexia All Will Be One. But if you want to see more Phyrexia All Will Be One, they will be daily draft and sealed videos of this format on the channel for quite some time. So stay tuned for that. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.